being a big fan of Fred Astaire, I was really looking forward to the Gay Divorcee, and to be honest, it was really slow to begin with. Once it got going, I think around the halfway mark, it began to pick up, but it definitely took a long time to get anywhere interesting. The film was released in 1934. It's directed by Mark Sandrich, and we have musical adaptation from Kenneth S. Webb and Samuel Hoffenstein. The Broadway musical was written by Dwight Taylor. I have definitely not seen the Broadway musical. I believe the Broadway musical is actually called The Gay Divorce, as opposed to The Gay Divorcee. If anybody has seen it, I'd love to know how it compares, what you think of it. It is something that I would be inclined to see if it ever is on stage. I don't know if it's still playing anywhere, but the film itself is worth watching. But as I said, it was a little bit slow. The narrative is a little bit chaotic, but hopefully I can describe it well enough without giving any spoilers. And there's a lot of coincidences in this, and as long as you don't mind films where everything just happens coincidentally, then you'll get along with it. But I know that some people don't really like films where everything just is too convenient, and that's definitely what we get here. But we have a man, a dancer called Guy Holden, played of course by Fred Astaire, who happens to randomly encounter a woman called Mimi, Ginger Rogers, when they're both travelling to London. And immediately he basically is enamored of her, and she's not that interested at all. But he rips her dress. I won't describe the situation that leads to it, but he rips her dress. She has his coat on to hide the rip, and she says she'll get the coat back to him, and he's obviously really looking forward to getting back in touch with her. Things don't go his way, and one thing leads to another, and they both, again coincidentally, end up in the same hotel. And the reason that Mimi is in a hotel is because her lawyer is orchestrating an affair that she will have with another man, the correspondent, to assist with her divorce. Now, I don't truly understand that, because I feel like if she was caught having a staged affair, of course they wouldn't know it's staged, but if she was caught having an affair, that wouldn't come across very well in the divorce. So I'm not entirely sure of the logic behind that, but this was the 1930s, things could have been completely different then. But because they end up in the same hotel, Mimi and Guy end up bumping into each other again, and Guy is determined to get the girl, as it were. And Mimi's not entirely sure of his identity. There's an element of mistaken identity, of being in the right place at the right time, or perhaps the wrong place at the right time, depending on how you look at it. And it's about their relationship, which is very much one-sided on Guy's part for the majority of the film, but because of Mimi's situation, and she thinks she's waiting for her correspondent, and she's going through a divorce, she definitely has a lot of very mixed feelings about the situation. To be honest, I think Mimi's a pretty boring character. She's not very interesting. I didn't find her emotions very convincing. This is nothing against Ginger Rogers' performance. I thought she did a great job, and dancing was absolutely beautiful. I just feel like the character was pretty badly written. I didn't really care for her. And to be honest, Guy is not much better as a character. Again, fabulous performance from Fred Astaire, wonderful dances. But the actual character, I just thought was a bit uncomfortable, almost. And I think that's maybe why I found the first half of it slow, because the narrative hadn't kicked in yet, and these kind of coincidences hadn't quite taken effect yet, and the characters were not that interesting. So there wasn't that much to sustain me. There were a couple of dance numbers here and there, a couple of songs that were quite good, but the characters and the narrative were both lacking. Although I have to say, Aunt Hortense, Mimi's aunt, played by Alice Brady, love her. Absolutely love her. And the whole thing about niece just amused me so much. So whenever she was on screen, I rather liked it. So it's definitely not the best film I've ever seen. It's not the best Fred Astaire film, or even the best Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers film. But if you're a fan of them and you haven't seen this, I'd say it's worth a watch. There will definitely be things in this that appeal to you, but it's definitely slow. I was surprised to find it's got 7.4 out of 10 on IMDb, which is a really good rating for a film. For a feature film, that's a really positive rating. And I don't agree with it, because I don't think the pacing of the narrative is very good. I don't think the characters are that well written. I think the comedy, mostly surrounding these coincidences and potential mistaken identity, once they finally happen, after about an hour, give or take, it's entertaining, and I quite liked it, but I certainly don't think it's fantastic. However, if there's anything about it that appeals to you, the cast, the subject matter, you've seen the Broadway version, I'd say it's worth a watch. But compared to other Fred Astaire and or Ginger Rogers films, it just doesn't quite cut it.